Ani, Kenoya, Bruce Nakwagijik Dijnakas, Makwado dem, Wikwem Kongdonjaba, Debajehmujig Enoki. Before I was introduced to Debajehmujig at about 8 years old, I remember sitting on my mother's living room floor in front of the TV, with my mother behind me on the couch knitting. We were watching the news, or she was. I wondered, then I turned to my mother behind me and asked, "Mum, how come the people on TV don't speak in the language?" She simply replied, "There are other cultures in the world that don't speak the language, so English is the most common language spoken." So came the Debajehmujig Theatre Group. Debajehmujig was started by Shirley Chichu in 1983 so that Native people could see the issues and concerns of their lives reflected outside themselves on stages in their own community. The company was purposely intergenerational, bringing elders, adults, youth, and children together to share the stories of their lives. Growing up on the reserve, I felt disconnected from others, and that underrepresentation of Indigenous people was obvious. Storytelling through performance has been a cornerstone of Indigenous culture since time immemorial. It wasn't until the 20th century that Indigenous communities in the Northern Great Lakes region were introduced to the Western concept of theatre. Debajehmujig took the Western concept of theatre and worked with it to enhance, never to take away from, the way that we tell our stories, whether traditional or modern. We understand our ancient connection to storytelling and acknowledge that here and now, theatre is telling the stories that will shape the way future generations will understand and remember us. Knowing where we came from to where we are now, we support the next generation of Indigenous theatre artists so they can see themselves and their own stories reflected on stage and know that their voices are important, not only to their communities, but the world. We break down the fourth wall. It is through the eyes and on the breath that we connect with our audiences. Our hearts, minds, and souls come shining through. And we can hear our stories, your stories. We have all come from some place, young and old. Theatre is the opportunity to share with the world what our lived experience has been. We strive to do this as a conversation with our audience, bringing them into our world and sending them back with a new awareness. If there is anything that we have learned from this pandemic, it's that theatre doesn't live in any specific location. Our stories live within each of us, in our hearts, minds, and spirits. Theatre allows us to share those stories with the world. Naha, miigwech, bamapi minwa kuwabmin.